or else I can be.
This meeting is being recorded.
So we're going to go ahead and invite Theresa to talk about what's going on with LinkedIn, and not for the beginner user, but for those of us who have been using it, where we're tripping over ourselves, where we can do better, and what's it really worth. So Theresa, it's all you.
All right, thank you, Hal. And also thank you, Sabine, for reaching out to me and reintroducing us so that I could be here today. It's good to see a couple familiar faces, and then it's always good to meet, new people. I'm going to start my timer for 5 minutes here. Quick background, I've been on LinkedIn since 2008. I've been helping people with LinkedIn for over 10 years. I've been around a while, and I've seen some things work, and I've seen some things get people in LinkedIn jail. So just by a simple show of hands, how many of you have actually used filters to find people, not just the search box, but actual filters within your network? Okay, okay, good. How many of you have used filters in other people's connection network? Okay, I just want to know where to go. You have, okay, Brad, okay, good. And how many of you know who your ideal connections are? We've all learned about ideal buyers and buyer personas and ideal clients, but have you given thought to who are your ideal connections? Okay, because there's different types of connections, right? Obviously, we all want to have lead generation and nurturing through LinkedIn. That's, we want to monetize it in some way, shape, or form. But, you also have connections who are your customers, of course. You have connections who are your referral partners. You have connections such as this group here with people that you know, like, and trust. And then, your prospects. And then I also like to encourage people to have an idea of who is a good connection when you're a go-giver, meaning helping other people, either through your volunteerism, through supporting someone early in their career. So I am going to go ahead and just pull up a quick presentation to kind of help get our thoughts going, because I'm always purpose-driven. Sabine knows that. And so I want to ask you, pardon me, I'm going to put this down here. I'm going to move this over here. So I'm going to ask a few quick questions. We talk about being effective on LinkedIn, but have you ever thought about why? Is it because it builds your brand awareness? Maybe. What about thinking it legitimizes your value beyond the price of your products and services? Is it effective that it connects you with your ideal customers, partners, and employees? And keep in mind employees, because we're going to talk about that a little bit differently. And then, of course, is it it's important to be effective because you don't want to waste your time or energy. And as Hal said in his post yesterday, if you're really not using it for some sort of ROI, it's just a hobby. Or is the answer all of the above? The correct answer is it's all of the above. When is LinkedIn activity not effective? And I think we've all experienced that either personally or maybe from someone else. But LinkedIn activity means nothing if your individual profile isn't optimized. It isn't effective when you don't personalize your invitations or you're using automation. It's not effective when you don't know who you're trying to reach out to, your ideal connections. And when you don't engage with others, it's just not effective. I think we've all learned that. But is it everything? Yeah, it's all of these things and more. When is LinkedIn activity most effective? And I think that's one of the big reasons why you're spending time today. So when it shares meaningful messages with those ideal connections. I think LinkedIn activity is most effective also when it relates to others' needs and interests. when it's authentic and timely? Does that make it effective? And is it necessary to be strategic? Is it only going to be effective if you're random or strategic? Something to think about. Maybe it's all of these things. I think it's all of these things. One last question, and this is something that each one of you can take away. What are a few examples of effective LinkedIn tactics? LinkedIn alone is not a strategy. It's a tactic. It's a tool. So is sharing a customer success story a good tactic? Posting an article with commentary. Engaging with other people's posts, commenting and sharing, is that effective? And what about conducting targeted searches for potential connections and sending personalized invitations to connect? Are all those effective? I think they are. And this is the last slide. It all starts with ideal connections. To be able to use LinkedIn effectively, you have to be able to have those ideal connections, accept your invitations, and want to connect with you, not ghost you, not ignore you. So we're going to talk about personalizing individual messages, and that's just not the invitation to connect. We're talking messaging, we're talking tagging people. Hal did a great job tagging people. If you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to do that well, that is something that should be a goal. And then time and time again, I find out that once I work with someone, they're not following up, and they're not following up timely. Not kidding. So we finally have someone who's paying attention to us on LinkedIn, and then they don't reply and they don't follow up. You have to share interesting and meaningful posts. It's one thing to be random, and then it's another thing to be effective. Sometimes people will just share someone else's because they're in a pod with somebody, and yet there's no commentary. The next big step to be effective on LinkedIn and to have an ROI is to actually ask for a phone conversation or a virtual meeting, and then really listen to learn. You're getting to know people, or getting to know people better. You may meet someone in person. Finally, we can be in person most of the time. But we forget to ask to have that next step, and then continue to be of value and keep in touch. And there's many ways and many other tools to do that. But as I said, LinkedIn is not a strategy, it's a tactic. And, it can be wildly effective, but you do have to also, follow some good best practices. So those are some things. Okay, so I'm going to stop share and ask, I have some examples of other things if we want to go on, but I'll take questions now so that I know how to shape my next steps.
So we have 5 or 10 minutes for people to talk about where the challenges are.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to share. And okay.
So Theresa, before you do, anybody have any questions? What's working for them, or whether there's things you want to try?
I think what's so challenging is the huge time commitment that goes into that. It's posting and engaging with other people, and it's just takes.
Well, it is.
So
it can be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, and that's why you have to find people who are worthy of your time, and decide, okay, who are my ideal connections, and how much time am I going to devote? One of the other things that Hal and I touched on Friday when we were finalizing preparation was gatekeepers. And I do want to talk about how, how do you reach that final decision maker who may have an executive assistant or an admin or a customer service person or even an outside contractor, an outside vendor who's actually managing an individual's social media, including their LinkedIn. We're going to talk about that as well. What I saw, about a third of you have actually used filters. So I'd like to go ahead and, for the rest of you, if it's okay, if this is a good direction, I've pulled up my account, obviously. To get to this page, all I did was click on network. And then it says, this is a list of all your connections. And then you're going to go to search with filters. The interesting thing I like is I usually go at least to a second level. And then let's say you only want to be in the Atlanta area, or let's just say, I like to stay within Atlanta. This is one of the more powerful things that you can do is you can add a company. Let's say it's a large organization and you need to touch base with not only operations, but also perhaps someone in purchasing or logistics. So if you have a large organization, you can always add them here. If you're looking for alumni, that's always good. Industry, I use this a lot. I can always add an industry here. And then we can add service categories. But down here, if I put in CEO, Human Resources Vice President, I can actually come up with a list. And I need to move this again. Now remember, I have two levels here. So in the Atlanta metropolitan area with the CEO. So I have 9,400 results. So whoever said something about, oh my gosh, how do I hone that? Where do I start with that? If that's usually why the company or the industry is very important. So let's narrow this down. Let's just say I heard a couple people say they were in real estate, at least one or two. So now I've honed it to 428. And then I can tell these are a lot of second level connection opportunities for me if I want to start to connect with these people. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
When
Lee, you had, go ahead, Paul. Paul, go ahead, and then
I
Lee.
was going to say, a lot of people are blocked. You have to be at a higher level, like a premier level at LinkedIn or premium. So a lot of people are blocked, like I can see in this screen you're sharing.
Like Amir?
Yes,
Are you referring to Amir?
yes.
If I wanted to connect with him and he's second level, the first thing I would do is I would at least try to get to know him a little bit more. I mean, okay, is he important to me? Does he fit my persona of an ideal connection that I would like for my prospecting? He's got a pretty good profile. He's got 3,100 followers. That's important to me. And the reason being is he knows the value of LinkedIn, but also if I connect with him on a first level, then I can go into, this was another example. I could go into his profile as a first level connection and then do an additional filter to find other people like him or he knows. Okay, so to answer your question, some people do block. There's a reason why, but you also have here this opportunity. You can message him. I don't pay for LinkedIn. I do have clients who do, and we use it differently, but you can write him a message and it is allowing me to connect. So he has set his privacy settings to allow people to at least reach out to him. And this is also important. Okay. There's not much there for him. Some people do allow at least an email, and this is one way around the gatekeeper, is some of these individuals do offer a non-work-based email. I wouldn't use it right off the bat. I would only use it with permission, because then it is like stalking. But I could connect with him if I wanted to. Not
Theresa?
all of them. Not all of them block you.
Theresa, we also had a question from Lee. Lee, your question?
Yeah, I had actually two questions, and they're in reference to, I guess, LinkedIn and I guess their algorithm. You know, in terms of frequency, like I know some people that spend 4 hours on a Monday and then on a Wednesday or Thursday, you know, going through and replying to every post and doing things, and I'm curious how the LinkedIn algorithm treats that. And then also I've heard of LinkedIn, I guess, groups where you've got, you know, groups of well-connected people, and they will basically post and comment on each other's, I guess, items so that it boosts it within LinkedIn. I just wanted to get your thoughts and feedback on both those.
One of the things about the LinkedIn algorithm is you'll never figure it out 100%. One of the best practices that I encourage is that you always be intentional, authentic, and meaningful. Again, going back to that core of who are your ideal connections. You can do a pod. I have a couple clients who I don't post for them on Tuesdays. Tuesday mornings, that is their pod time. So I don't post for them. I don't schedule anything for them. It's strictly their own effort. Sometimes LinkedIn sees that as favorable, depending upon what the post is. It's content, and they know when it's overly automated. So I could go into a whole day of discussing what makes a great post and what doesn't, but for today, I'm just trying to help everybody be more effective and use their time more wisely. When you get, we can jump to this, and then I do want to come back to the filters because I do think it's important. Up here is notifications. It is probably the fastest and easiest way to quickly glance through and say, okay, for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to find 5 or 6 people that I want to stay in touch with, that I believe are worthy of my time. And I'm either going to comment, I'm going to share a post, I'm going to congratulate them. I'm going to reach out to them, you know, through a messaging, not just through notification, but through messaging as well. Michael Jones and I serve on the Gwinnett Tech Marketing Management Board. We meet twice a year to help them to develop curriculum. So he's also heavy. He's a teacher as well. He's an adjunct staff member, and he is heavy into Instagram with his students. So he does a lot of the hashtags. So, you know, he posted an hour ago. I would want to do more than just like it. I might want to comment on it. I'd have to read it to know. And that's the other thing about a time thief, is how quickly can you scan something and know whether or not you want to support it. And I would never support anything that you haven't at least scanned. So time-wise, you're concerned being blocked. We've addressed that issue, that you just have to try. If it's important enough to you, if you think that person is worthy enough of your time, then you just have to make quick decisions, and they will become second nature. It's just like a muscle memory. You will start to know from them responding to you, either through messaging, through email, through posts and comments, that you support.
Thank you, Theresa. Thank you so much. We're going to, because we're watching our time, we're going to jump back to the group. And clearly, the filtering is one piece to answer what you brought up. Was the first question is, why are you trying to reach certain people and who are they? And for that reason, it's not going to be solved today, but you've really helped move the conversation forward. So thank you for that. As an update for everybody else, again, here's Theresa's contact information.
Susie had a question.
I actually had more of a comment for a response to Yuli, which was that she's worrying about time issues. And yes, it's one of the reasons why I get really frustrated by LinkedIn, because I am sent so many articles and so many videos, and so many people tag me. But Yuli, in response, I do know I have a colleague. He's the kind of guy that gets up at 4 a.m. for his day. So it's that kind of person we're talking about. But he actually has a to-do sheet that is directly related to LinkedIn. And he spends his first hour of every day just working on LinkedIn stuff. And as a result, he has gotten between 2 and 3 clients every week.
Nice.
But it's an hour every day. He's a guy that gets up at 4 a.m. to exercise. So it's that kind of guy who's like, go get her from the very beginning. And yeah, he spends an hour in the morning as the first thing that he does. And as a result, 2 to 3 clients every week.
But I'm sure he's targeting. I am sure that he is working through intentional, meaningful messaging. He is
I have no
following
doubt.
up.
I'm just saying he literally donates an hour of his day before he does anything else to a list that he checks off of everything he wants to do with all the various possibilities on LinkedIn.
And what I'm hearing between Susie and Theresa, what I'm hearing is that it's not just the time, which is something that we wanted to hear from Theresa about how much time you should spend and what it takes to get a return on it. What Teresa's pointed out is that you need to know who you want to go after and then target them, as opposed to, I know some of us have a common friend who spends an hour every day just replying and thanking people for their messages or commenting on their messages. And it's not, I don't think it's as targeted as Teresa's recommending. So in an effort to wrap up, first off, Theresa, thank you again for sparking some interest and giving us some guidance where to navigate through so many choices. And coming up in a couple of weeks, based on Paul's advice, and I think everybody just kind of it clicked with everybody that there's no accountability to our sessions here unless we spend some time talking about it some more. So next week, you're all invited back. The focus will be on what's working, what's not, how are we doing ourselves. We just heard Theresa say, go target. Well, who's going to target over the next 2 weeks? And we'll have some ideas to tell us if it's working, what's not working. And then at the first Tuesday in May, we'll be talking about email strategies. Sabine was able to get Natasha, who's got an agency, spends a lot of effort, focus on strategies for email. So we're going to pick up that conversation. And then at the end of end of May, we would have another accountability session about using those things that we've learned. So with that, Jared's last comment about what gives people feelings of power, and it's sitting on somebody's LinkedIn invitation. Thank you, Jared, for the humor. It's almost hurtful that it's funny, but yeah, that's in there. So thank you all. Time for the rest of the week, and take care.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Thank you.